Laura Castel. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you,
Thank
you to invite me to share
you.
your with you some thoughts.
Thank you. Dear Laura, lately you have been in two different important events. One of them was the in Strasbourg, in the where the Öcalan's vigil has been held. So basically, what was the details from there? You have joined there. You have done a press conference as well. You gave a speech as well. So let's remember that. And what was the details from there?
Well, it was it was a press briefing for the 12th anniversary of the Ocalan Vigil in Strasbourg, in front of the Palais de l'Europe, of the Council of Europe, and I convey my solidarity from my political party, the Republican Left of Catalonia, because I think that solidarity between peoples, it's a powerful tool to fight for freedom. And also, I explained that the Council of Europe was celebrating the 75th anniversary, and one third of those years, Ocalan has been in prison and is in prison. So also one of my thoughts was that organisms of the Council of Europe has been really quite silent on Ocalan's situation and on this long-standing violation of human rights, and also how the double standards referring Ocalan is applying and are applied in comparison with other victims. And also one thing that I was told in that day was that week Julian Assange was released, and that show us that the fight can end in a victory. So we need hope, and we should keep the hope alive. And the last thing I convey was that we in Catalonia, in Catalan fight for our rights, we set a negotiation table with the Spanish government, and just an amnesty law was passed a few weeks ago, and now it is applying, and that paved the way for a political solution. And I think that that could be the solution. Release Ocalan, set a negotiation table, and because Ocalan is not just a human being, is just also a symbol of the Kurdish fight. And for this political solution, we need peace and justice. And that was more or less what I said during this press conference.
Thank you, Laura. You already mentioned perfectly. You make us remember about your speech in the Öcalan's vigil point. But there was a CPT one side where the vigil has been held, and the European Commission is just opposite side of the road. And both of these EU constitutions are basically the responsible parts of the isolation on Mr. Abdullah Öcalan. So. Uh, Secondly, the CPT's position hasn't changed yet. Just before our interview, we have talked about it as well. We have done many interviews. You have gave a speech in many different press conferences, but the case of Öcalan hasn't changed yet. So the what is your comments about the CPT and its position, as well as the European Council as well?
Yeah, that is one of the double standards, because it is true that they rule under the rule that there is the member state should give the permission when a report is done for publishing, and Turkey veto to publish the last report is it is not changing anything. So Turkey is vetoing this report, and even though that the CPT has done 9 visits to the Imrali prison, nothing has changed. And I think it is the show of long-standing violation of human rights, and how an organism of human rights could be stopped and, and unable to act. So I don't know what be done with that. Only denounce, and we do. In fact, from our political group there, the Unified European Left, we are a lot of initiatives on that, and we are not announcing this.
Thank you, Laura. So basically, you also joined to a press conference at Genoa about Öcalan. Can we get some details from there as well? That was an important press conference as well. So what was the details from there? What should we remember from your speech as well? And how important was that to held it in the UN's um, premises basically. So what role does the UN also has on isolation on Öcalan?
Yeah, well, it was a side event during the Human Rights Council of the United Nations, and it was on human rights in Turkey. And I explained on recent period after the failure of peace talks, so violation of human rights in Turkey, how people has been sacked from jobs, investigated by insulting president, even sent in prison, including minors. How Turkey government is harassing journalists and using terrorism laws to convict opposition. And also, I explain a little about the closure case of HDP and the Kobane case, the sentence of the former leaders of HDP. The Demirtas has been sentenced to 42 years. It's amazing. It is, it has I have no name for that. And Figan, 30 years. So, well, also, I explained the removal of mayors, the elected mayors, and some of them imprisoned. And also, I explained about all this violation of human rights. I explained that in the Council of Europe, in the Parliamentary Assembly, there was a resolution in the Parliamentary Assembly made by Silevic and on political prisoners, centered on Turkey, in Turkey and Spain, the Catalan political prisoners. And so there have been a lot of initiatives carried out. Also, I explained the prison conditions, how the prisoners are dealing with this inhuman treatment. And I explain also our fact-finding mission we did last year in May, and our conclusions. And I explained also the mechanisms in the Council of Europe and initiatives we carried out there. Written questions on Turkey, oral questions to the Committee of Ministers, also a lot of debate centered in Turkey human rights violations, how the monitoring procedure is done, and also how there are fact-finding missions there. So finalizing, I conclude that the role of the Council of Europe and the United Nations, it's lead or should be lead this peace process, because they're almost mainly the Council of Europe, the 3 pillars are human rights, democracy, and rule of law. So I think this kind of the institutions, national institutions based on human rights should lead this process. Okay, so more or less that was my intervention, because I share this item with the lawyer of Mr. Ocalan. So he explained how the judicial procedures and the isolation regime, and so on, and also a mayor who was explaining about the situation of the mayors in Turkey, elected mayors that are, some of them in prison and some of them are substituted by others who are not elected. So that was more or less the side event in the United Nations, and there were a lot of people there very shocked for our explanation.
Yeah, we can imagine, dear Laura. Thank you. We have a couple of minutes left, so very quickly, and if you can answer very shortly. As you know, the Freedom for Öcalan political solution for Kurdish question campaign still continues. So what needs to be done? What else needs to be done to make this campaign bigger and more effective? What is your suggestions? Very shortly, very briefly, because
Very short.
uh,
Very
yeah,
shortly. I think
thank
we should, or you should, call for the United Nations Working Group of Arbitrary Detention to release a report or a statement, because I think what is happening with Mr. Ocalan is something that could be of interest of this United Nations Working Group of Arbitrary Detention. Also, I think a call to the United Nations special rapporteurs to investigate the Ocalan case, and also finally a call to the Council of Europe Human Rights Commissioners. Now he's new in his position, be involved in that deeply. I think that's my three recommendations. That maybe you are doing that, but I don't know what is could be more effective than that.
Thank you. So everybody talks about the importance of the starting the peace negotiations again between Turkish government and the Kurdish movement, liberation movement, and that has been happening in the past as well. So, what do you think about this? Do you think these peace negotiations and freedom for Öcalan can help to solve this problem? Very shortly, that one as well.
Surely, and I have said several times, even to you, that the democratization of Turkey, I think there is no democratization since Kurdish question will be resolved, and the isolation of Ocalan is should be ended as a precondition of this peace process, and finally let Ocalan play his part in building peace process. So I think this is my three ideas that to restart. So dissolve the Kurdish question, and the isolation of Ocalan, and finally let him play this leading role in the peace process.
Thank you, Laura. Lastly, very briefly, as you know, the Turkey's occupation attack still continues to northern part of the Kurdistan. So, what is your call to Turkey to stop the war, to come back to the peace negotiations table? Very, very shortly, that one.
Very surely. Well, I have no solution. Just I think the solution is in the hands of the voters of Turkey, because at the last, who is in charge of the government of Turkey is for vote means. So I think the people, when vote, leaders have the power to change their life. We know that, and of course, Turkey is a member founding of the founder of the Council of Europe and United Nations member, and once joined the European Union. So I think that could be a press for Turkey, but it's not enough. And now we are viewing this international law system at stake, because the Russian aggression, the Turkey long-lasting aggression, Israel genocide. So I don't know. And now the global system really doesn't work really. So I think people has the power. Lastly, so people, when votes, should be very aware that they have the really power to change the leaders. I know that that's not maybe the answer. It's not the great solution, but it's we have some power the voters. We are more than the leaders. We are thousands, 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 millions of people. So we, the people, have the power.
Thank you, dear Laura Castel. Thank you for your valuable comments and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.